the graveyard shift. Anyone who's worked one knows it's a different world. The silence is thicker, the shadows play tricks on you, and every little sound gets amplified until it's a monster in your head. I used to stock shelves at this sprawling 24-hour grocery store. But even a 24-hour place has its quiet hours. After about 2 a.m., the foot traffic dies down to almost nothing. It's just you, the hum of the freezers, and the endless aisles stretching out like dark tunnels. This one night it was different. It was a Tuesday, I think. Rain was lashing against the big glass windows at the front of the store. A constant, dreary drumming. The manager had already left, leaving me and one cashier, Sarah, up at the front. My job was simple: restock, face the labels forward, make sure everything looked perfect for the morning rush. I actually enjoyed the solitude most nights. It was peaceful. But not this night. The air felt heavy, charged with something I couldn't put my finger on. It was about 3:15 a.m. The store was a ghost town. Even Sarah was just sitting at her register, scrolling on her phone, lost in her own world. I was working my way through the canned goods aisle, soups, beans, you know the drill. It's one of the longest aisles in the store, and it backs up to the stockroom. I had a pallet of goods sitting at one end, and I was running my box cutter through tape, breaking down boxes, the sound echoing in the quiet. I needed to grab a different pallet from the back, so I left my cart and headed toward the swinging double doors of the stockroom. The main lights in the store were dimmed for the late-night hours, leaving only the emergency lights on. They cast these long, distorted shadows that danced and swayed every time you moved. The stockroom was even darker, just a single bare bulb flickering overhead. As I pushed through the doors, a wave of cold air hit me. Colder than it should have been. Stockroom was always a bit chilly, but this was a deep, biting cold that seemed to sink right into your bones. I shrugged it off, blaming the old building and the rainy night. I found the pallet I needed, a tower of cereal boxes, and started to maneuver the pallet jack to get it out. That's when I heard it. A sound from the aisle I'd just left. Canned goods, aisle 7. It was a soft sound. Almost missed it. The distinct thump asterisk of a can hitting the linoleum floor. I stopped, listening. Maybe something just fell off the shelf. It happens. But then I heard another sound. Footsteps. They weren't my footsteps, or Sarah's. Sarah was 100 feet away at the front of the store. These were close, right in aisle 7. They were slow, deliberate. The sound of work boots scuffing against the polished floor. Step, drag, step, drag. My heart started hammering against my ribs. We were the only 2 employees in the entire building. There shouldn't be anyone else here. "Hello," I called out, my voice sounding small and shaky in the vast emptiness. "Anyone there?" Silence. The footsteps stopped. The only sound was the hum of the freezers and the drumming of the rain. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, frozen in the doorway of the stockroom, my hands still on the pallet jack. Every nerve in my body was screaming at me. Something was wrong. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a late-night shopper I hadn't noticed, someone who'd wandered in and was just browsing. But at 3 a.m., in this weather? And why wouldn't they answer me? "Hey, we're closing up this section for stocking," I called out again, trying to sound more authoritative, trying to convince myself as much as anyone else. "You'll have to come around to the front." Again, nothing. Just that oppressive, heavy silence. My breath was catching in my throat. I slowly, carefully let go of the pallet jack and peered around the edge of the doorway, back into aisle 7. The aisle was empty. My cart was still there, a few open boxes beside it. A single can of chicken noodle soup lay on the floor, right where I'd heard the sound. It had rolled a few feet and come to a stop against the bottom shelf. Everything else was still. The long, dim aisle stretched out before me, disappearing into shadow at the far end. My mind was racing. Was I just tired, sleep-deprived, and hearing things? It had to be. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the frantic beating of my heart. "It's just the late shift getting to you," I told myself. "You're fine." I stepped out of the stockroom and walked over to the can on the floor. I picked it up, my hand trembling slightly. As I placed it back on the shelf, I felt it. A feeling of being watched. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, a primal instinct kicking in. I didn't want to, but I had to look. I slowly turned my head and glanced down the length of the aisle. toward the far end where it met the main thoroughfare of the store, and my blood ran cold. Standing there, shrouded in the deep shadows at the very end of the aisle, was a figure. It was tall, unnaturally so, and seemed to be dressed entirely in black. It was just a silhouette, a cutout of a person against the dim light, but it was unmistakably there. It wasn't moving. It was just watching me. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. My feet felt like they were bolted to the floor. My entire world had shrunk to that long, dark aisle and the terrifying shape at the end of it. It was too tall to be a person. The proportions were wrong. The shoulders were too broad, the limbs too long. It was just a black void in the shape of a man. We stood there, locked in this silent standoff, me paralyzed with fear, and it perfectly still, an obsidian statue in the gloom. I don't know how long it lasted. Seconds? Minutes? It felt like a lifetime. My brain was screaming, a frantic, silent shriek. Asterisk run, run now, asterisk. Finally, some survival instinct broke through the paralysis. I spun around and ran. I didn't grab my cart. I didn't think about the pallet in the stockroom. I just ran. I sprinted down the aisle, away from the figure, my boots slapping against the floor, the sound echoing frantically. I didn't dare look back. I was afraid of what I might see, afraid it might be closer. I bolted toward the front of the store, toward the light, toward Sarah. My plan was simple. Get to the front doors, get out, and never come back. The automatic doors. They'd be open. I rounded the corner of the main aisle at a full sprint, my lungs burning. The registers were in sight. "Sarah," I yelled, my voice cracking with panic. "Sarah, open the door." But Sarah wasn't at her register. The little stool was empty. Her phone was on the counter, its screen lit up. I didn't stop. I ran straight for the massive glass sliding doors at the entrance. They were my only way out. I was about 10 feet away when I slammed into an invisible wall. Not an invisible wall. The doors hadn't opened. I hit them hard, my hands slapping against the cold glass. I fumbled for the sensor, waving my hands frantically. Nothing. I looked down. The doors were locked. A heavy, thick bolt was slid across the bottom. The manager always locked them after 2 a.m. for security. You could only get out through the employee exit at the back near the stockroom, near where asterisk was. Panic, pure and absolute, seized me. I was trapped. I hammered on the glass with my fists. "Sarah," I screamed. "Let me out." And then I heard it again. Behind me, the slow, deliberate scuffing of boots on the floor. Step, drag, step, drag. It was closer now, much, much closer. I could feel the cold radiating from it, a wave of icy dread washing over me. I slowly turned around, and my back was pressed against the cold glass of the locked doors. The figure was there, standing in the middle of the main thoroughfare, about 30 feet away. It was out of the deepest shadows now, and I could see nothing. There was no face, no features, just a solid, towering mass of black. It was like looking into a hole in reality. It tilted its head, a slow, unnatural gesture. And then I heard a whisper. It wasn't a human voice. It was like the rustling of dry leaves, the scraping of rock on rock, but it formed a word. My name. It whispered my name. That was it. I broke. I slid down to the floor, my back against the door, and just stared. I couldn't scream anymore. Couldn't move. All I could do was watch as the tall black figure took another slow, dragging step toward me, and another. It just kept coming, a relentless, silent nightmare inching its way across the linoleum. I closed my eyes, waiting for the end, whispering a prayer I didn't know I remembered. I stayed there, curled up in a ball on the floor, until the first rays of dawn started to filter through the glass doors. When the morning manager arrived, he found me there, shivering and incoherent. He found Sarah in the break room, fast asleep. She said she'd felt incredibly tired and had gone to lie down, which was completely against the rules. She hadn't heard a thing. Of course, they thought I was crazy. Overtired, hallucinating. They pulled the security footage to prove it. They sat me down in the office and played the tapes from the night before, and my heart sank. The footage from aisle 7 was clear. Showed me going into the stockroom. Showed the can of soup falling off the shelf, seemingly on its own. It showed me coming out, picking it up, and then suddenly turning and sprinting away from it. Nothing. The aisle was completely empty. There was no figure, no tall man in black. Nothing. I looked like a madman. They were about to send me home, probably to fire me later. But the security manager, a guy named Dave, kept rewinding the footage from the front entrance camera, the one pointed at the doors where they found me. He was frowning, leaning close to the screen. "Wait a second," he said. "What is that?" He pointed to the timestamp. Right around the moment I would have hit the doors. He played it in slow motion. On the screen, you could see me run up and slam into the glass. And then, for a single frame, a blink and they'll miss it moment, you could see it. Standing right outside the front doors, on the other side of the glass, was a tall, dark silhouette. It was there for a fraction of a second, a flicker in the pouring rain, and then it was gone. The camera footage showed nothing there before and nothing thereafter. Just a momentary, impossible shadow. A shadow that had been waiting for me. I never worked another night shift again. In fact, I never set foot in that store again. Some doors, you see, are better left locked. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from the dark.